Hello, and welcome back to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn McCarthy, and today is going to be a great day. Happy end of January approaching here. Happy the end of the first month of 2025. I was just driving my daughter back to college this past weekend, and she's at music school in Boston. And she was telling me about this band she was in, and she's been having so much fun with them, really enjoying. She loves that she gets to spend her whole life in college doing the thing she loves, which is music. And she's been feeling kind of up and down about the band that she's with. And yes, there is dental relevance to this. Bear with me. We were chatting in the car driving back to college, and she was telling me how there's so much opportunity and she's learning so much from this band, that specific band that she's with. And she's really having a good time. But there's also so much in the personalities of the people in the band that's really not great. She doesn't love the leadership. She thinks that, many people are not being seen and valued in the band. She's frustrated that her voice isn't being heard. It's not really the exact genre she wants to eventually be playing the rest of her life in. But this opportunity is so good right now. And so she's really feeling torn what to do while she's playing in this band, but really recognizing the parts of it that she doesn't love. The rehearsal schedule is too much. It's taking away from her attention and time elsewhere. And all of these little frustrations that she was mentioning to me reminded me so much of my first associateship in ortho. There was so much good. I was getting my first experience as an associate. I was treating patients in a private setting outside of an academic experience. I was finally doing what I had studied and paid so much money to finally be treating patients and, beautifying smiles and occlusions, using my hands, using braces. It was so exciting to me. And I was getting a paycheck. I was being paid better than I'd ever been paid for any other job in my entire life. I was learning how to communicate with the other orthodontists, how to treatment plan together, and then how to share that treatment plan with one another, how to have a shared language, and support a single patient's treatment between multiple doctors. I mean, that's a skill. Gosh, that was such a big, important skill that I would carry with me for the rest of my life. I didn't even realize it at the time. I was learning how to communicate with 6 assistants at a time, how to navigate 6 patients at a time. I mean, there were so many things I was learning, and there was so much that I didn't like. The leadership, very similar to what my daughter is realizing now in the band she's in. I didn't love the leadership. Nobody was really feeling valued. Everyone was feeling like they were being talked down to. And the team, all the team members were a little bit annoyed. There was a lot of conversation in the lunchroom. There was a lot of irritation. There was a lot of side-eye looks across the room. Every time the lead orthodontist, the owner, would come in, I would catch the other women's eyes looking at each other like, oh dear, here she comes again. The orthodontist I was working with had this uncanny practice where she had a huge stop sign that she put on her door with a big hand pointing outwards that said, "Do not come in." And she'd put that on her door, and it just felt so unwelcoming. And, sometimes emergencies and things would happen, and the team felt like they didn't know where to go. They didn't know who to talk to. So there's a lot of things that I was learning. I don't love the way this is. I don't love the way this is going. I didn't love some of the ways that she communicated with the team, and I didn't love some of the ways she communicated with the patients. There were some things that I just knew I wouldn't want to take with me. And I started to let it get to me. I started noticing more things that were irritating me, more reasons why I just didn't want to be there anymore. And I'd get in the car on the drive home, and it happened to be quite far from where I lived at the time, a couple hours drive. I'd get into the car and I would just stew and reminisce of the day, of all the things that irritated me about this job, of all the reasons why I didn't like my boss, of all the ways that I didn't agree with the way she did things. And I'll never forget, I was driving home one day and I realized, wow, I am learning the leader I don't want to be. I am actually getting an incredible opportunity here to learn not just what I do want, but very clearly what I don't. And in that moment, I had kind of a shift of perspective. And today, that's what I want to share with you. I want to ask you, where are you shining your mental spotlight? If you were to imagine in your head, there is an enormity of information in there. I mean, we're constantly getting it. We know 11 billion bits of information coming at us at any one time, and our minds can only focus on 40. Not 40,000, 40 out of 11 billion bits. So at any one point in time, your mental spotlight or your mental flashlight is looking only at 40 of these 11 billion. And I want you to imagine that 11 billion, not just the sights and sounds and smells that all your senses are receiving, because that's what it's referring to, but also your attention. Where are you putting your attention? And what is coloring the way you're looking at it? Let's just take one example here of this associateship position. This stop sign that this lead orthodontist, the owner of this business, was putting up on her door, outside her office door. In that moment, if I had, instead of getting irritated and joined in on the side eye looks on the floor, what if I looked at it with curiosity? Wow, isn't that interesting? Isn't it interesting that this orthodontist feels the need to create a boundary so that she can make time and space for herself? Something is happening in that room that she can't be interrupted by. What can I learn from this? What can I understand from this? Imagine if I had had the wherewithal to actually ask her. Here I was sitting in this incredible opportunity to learn not just what I wanted to do, but what I didn't want to do as a leader, as a boss, as an orthodontist, as a business owner. I was getting an inside scoop of how I wanted to lead the rest of my career. What if I had had that insight to put my judgment aside and maybe just ask her, I noticed that you put the stop sign on your door. I'd love to know, why did you do that? Is there something that you've learned that necessitates needing to create that boundary? I would have loved to have known. I mean, now with my experience after 23 years of practicing, I know that if we don't have set some kind of boundaries as leaders, we're constantly being asked, we're constantly being interrupted, and nothing will get done. Now, might there have been a better way for her to go about it? Absolutely. Something more aligned with me? Absolutely. For her, it worked. Maybe it didn't bother her. Maybe she wasn't aware of what the team members were feeling. None of that actually matters. What matters is where I was shining my mental spotlight. Instead of looking at it as a source of irritation, instead of looking at it as a reason why I shouldn't stay in that job, I couldn't stay in that job, I didn't want to stay in that job, what if I turned my attention to, wow, what can I learn here? And isn't it fascinating that I'm getting an inside view? Here's what I know. I knew I was getting a great paycheck. I knew I was learning so much about orthodontics and communication. How could I have changed my mental spotlight, my mental flashlight, to recognize all the other things I was learning? I think sometimes we allow ourselves to be so mired in irritation, frustration, that it puts up this barrier for us, very much like that stop sign. And it prevents any further learning, awareness, or deeper insight into ourselves. What if we took down that stop sign for a moment and allowed ourselves to see, wow, that form of communication, that form of leadership isn't aligned with me. Who do I want to be? how could I create that boundary for myself as a business owner, as a leader, without the irritation, without the stop sign? What would that look like for me? How could I learn from this that, yeah, as a leader, as a human being, we need to create boundaries. And how can I do that with love and in alignment with my own values? How much more enjoyable would that ride home have been for me than sitting and stewing and being irritated and identifying and judging all the reasons why I thought she was a terrible boss? What if I gave myself the opportunity to sit down on that long ride home and be grateful for this opportunity of learning? How could I have just turned my mental spotlight, my mental flashlight onto gratitude? And I know gratitude can sometimes get a bad rap. It feels cliche. It feels sometimes like toxic positivity. Can you just be grateful for what you got? We get those sayings. But I'm asking this from a perspective of improving the way you feel in your day. Because what we know is when you're in a low-level state, when you're feeling irritated, frustrated, angry, annoyed, there is no growth from that place. Yes, anger fuels revolutions, and it's such a valuable emotion, 100%. And I'm not telling you not to feel that frustration, that anger. But once you've experienced that feeling, can you then turn it around? See, the anger is only indicative of something that means a lot to you. Look, if something didn't bother you at all, you wouldn't even think twice about it, right? Things happen to me all the time. Here's a great example. People cutting me off on the road, for me, doesn't even touch me. I really don't care. Go ahead, cut me off. It really doesn't irritate me. I have no innate sense of road rage at all. I just see someone who's in a hurry. I see somebody who's in their own state of stress and fight or flight, and I just give them leeway. Go ahead, rush to where you got to go, because I know I have all the time in the world. I know I am safe. So road rage has never irritated me. But for some people, that really hits a nerve. There are things that do hit a nerve for me. And when I identify those things, let's talk about this leadership, for example, that hit a nerve for me. That's because that is of great value to me. Being a good leader, being a good communicator. Now, when I identify, wow, that irritates me, that makes me angry, let me use that just as an indicator light of what matters to me. See, I think so often we're looking outside of ourselves to know what matters. We follow gurus online, we read books, we read marketing books, we go to dental school and we look to the professors for their knowledge, and we're constantly asking, what should I be paying attention to? What should I be valuing? Tell me what I should be expecting. And we don't take enough time to really consider what matters to us. And that is where anger actually is a huge gift. Because the moment you notice yourself getting angry or frustrated about something, it's an indicator that it really matters to you. So once again, what if we could just use that simply as a signal, as an indicator light? Wow, this is really making me frustrated. This must really mean I value something here. And then another example might be you feel like your work is taking too many hours of your day, like it's seeping into your private life. And that really, you can't get over that frustration. What amazing insight. I love the phrase, isn't it interesting? We get to identify our emotion, recognize when we're stressed or angry or frustrated, and then turn it around and say, isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting that this is frustrating me so much? What in this situation can teach me about what matters most to me? I mean, I think that's just so valuable when for decades, maybe you've been leading your life, living on what matters to other people, what other people think should matter to you, that actually our anger and frustration can allow us to identify what matters to us. And let it just be that much. That's why that emotion is so valuable. But it's not valuable to hold on to. anger and frustration, when we perseverate, when we sit and swirl round and round and we call a friend and we tell another friend and we keep getting irritated, we actually get nowhere. There's no growth, there's no insight, there's no learning. But can we turn that mental flashlight on gratitude? Wow. Thank you, body, first of all, for the awareness of something that really matters to me. Thank you to my nervous system for feeling this frustration and anger or fear, because now I know some opportunity of growth. And number two, thank you for this situation. Thank you, universe, that you've put me in this office with this leader, with this boss, because now I get to learn not just what she does well. And by the way, she did many amazing things really well. She was an incredible business owner, growing a business. She was a really good orthodontist, and I learned so much from her treatment planning. She had great skill at envisioning treatment outcomes and really putting into place with clarity what needed to happen to get there. Oh, I'm so grateful. But she also taught me the type of leader I didn't want to be, the kind of communicator I didn't want to be, the energy in a room that I didn't want to hold. When she walked in the room, everyone felt stressed. You could see their body language changed. And what an awesome experience to learn that, to recognize, wow, people impact people the moment they walk in the room. She didn't need to open her mouth, and her energy was felt by the room, by the patients, by the team, by the parents. We all felt her energy, and it impacted every single person. I learned so much. Whatever situation you're in right now, I invite you to just recognize where your mental flashlight is shining. Is it shining on all the problems? Is it shining on all the irritations and frustrations? Can you use that insight to tell you more about what matters to you? And then can you shift that mental spotlight to recognize the gift in everything? Not just the good things, but even the uncomfortable things. Because the truth is, everything is a gift if you choose to see it that way. If you choose to shine your mental flashlight through the lens of gratitude, through the lens of opportunity and insight, through the lens of learning more about yourself. I knew I wasn't going to stay in that position forever. I knew I wanted to own my own practice. I knew I wanted to feel a different vibe in the office. I knew I had a different vision for what my practice was going to look like. But for that moment, I was earning a great income and earning a phenomenal lesson in life and in practice. Something that was possibly more valuable than anything I'd learned in my 4 years of dental school and my years in ortho residency. I was really getting real-time learning. So I offer this to you today. As you go through your week, just recognize, where are you shining your mental flashlight? And is it serving you? Are you spending your day irritated, frustrated, annoyed? Or can you recognize that just as an indicator light and then allow yourself to discover the learning and the opportunity and, dare I say, the gift underneath it? You're doing amazing things. And if your whole goal every day is just to feel better, then you're stepping into greater ownership of your life. Because when you feel good, that is when you can do good. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.maccarthy.com. thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.